This automation is going to take any YouTube URL, download the YouTube transcript, convert that and overlay it with a Twitter bot that will transform it into 20 viral-ready tweets to post. It's going to create a draft email that you could send to a client. How do I know that? I actually started a business using Paperform and we got like 10K a month just using this basic technology.
My name is Ondrej, and this is an interview with Jack Roberts. We talk about how to make money with AI automations, how to not get replaced at your job, and which AI tools you absolutely need to use. So make sure to watch until the end.
We're going to start with a trigger at the top end. The example I've got here is this Paperform, which we can embed into a website, and I'll show you how to do that really quickly. The concept of this one is video to tweets. So, for example, this is the transcript from Sam Altman's conversation. I try to build these and think about these automations in a configurable way so that whatever your end purpose is, whether you've got a form that you give to your client, maybe you've got a Slack channel, whatever the input is can be super configurable. So bear that in mind. I start with this website called Card. If you're not familiar with Card, like if you go over to card.co, there, but I don't know, have you used Card before? Are you familiar with those?
I haven't actually.
So basically you can choose a starting point, designs that you like. I recommend it because it's super easy. So you pick one. And then the way that Card works, you can publish the website within like a minute. But then you can do lots of things like, change the images. You can add different assets if you like to. So for example, this is the code. I'm just going to delete this for a second. What we want to do is embed this form into this website so that a client can land on the website, submit it, and get started.
In this case, you would sell the entire package, like built in the website on Card, do the automation with Make, and then send out the email. Like what would be like the thing you're selling to the client here? By the way, it's the last 3 days where if you join my community, I will build you a custom GPT for any use case you want. You also get all the trainings we have inside, as well as exclusive access to myself. This is a June only offer, so if you want a personalized GPT built just for you, make sure to join. It's the first link in the description.
So that's a really good question. So you could, for example, sell the website with the technology. What I would say with this one is, let's say, for example, you have a podcast, right? Time is a precious commodity to you. If I said, hey, you don't have time to write 50 tweets every week, correct? Like, yeah, sure. So what I'm going to do is I'll take your URL automatically. I'm going to train this, this system, which we can do here. This is just like a very simple version. We can add modules to train it on your own tone of voice, plus grab all your quotes. So actually, you're going to get 50 tweets every single week based on all the cool stuff you said in your podcast, automatically in your inbox. And in fact, if you like it and you think it's great quality, we can also get them posted for you automatically. And for the privilege of that, you set up a subscription, which, by the way, you can do that with Paperform. You can add payments in there. So for instance, if I come down here, I can add a question. As you can see down here, right? I believe it's under payments or card or price. You can add prices for things. You can set up subscriptions. So the beauty of this is the fact that I can collect information from clients. I can collect payment from clients and even subscriptions. How do I know that? I actually started a business using Paperform and we got like 10K a month just using this basic technology before we upgraded and built something else. So this isn't just something I've found. I've used it. I've done it. I've been there, and it 100% works.
Yeah, I love software like this. It just makes it even easier for people to start,
Exactly. So it's a really great, just enables you to plug and play and get started. So I built this on Paperform. Again, we can add payments in there just for the purposes of this demo. I'll do it without the payment. So basically you create it, you can configure it in many ways you want to by coming through to configure, details, loads of cool stuff. But again, there's many options. There's Tally, there's Paperform. When we've done that, what we do is we come to share. We come down to social and URL, and then you'll see you've got this thing here. But if you click on embed, you get this like inline embed code. And what we can do with any website where we can put HTML essentially is we come here and like this is the way that Card works, which is ACE. We click on the plus, we come down, we just click embed. That's it. And then look, you come down here on the left hand side, and all I'm going to do is enter that code in like so. Scroll down and just hit done. And then I'm going to bring this up just so it kind of sits in a little bit like that. And I'm going to save it. Now, if you just created this, when you come to publish it, you basically pick the title. I've just put like, keyboard spaghetti in there, a description, publish for Card URL, enter the URL you want. So this could be, hey, this is like Tweetify 2.0. Then we publish the changes. It loads in the background. And then I can go visit it. Now check this out. This is where it gets crazy. Look at this. Opens up. There's Tweetify. And almost by magic, this entire form is just embedded in the website. And then basically from this with the client, we can say, cool, what's your email address? I can put the email address in. So we'll just put like a random one in as a for instance. and then we can give it a YouTube URL. So for the purpose of this, I will just find some random. What do you think, David? Like a random Sam Altman interview or something? Like maybe
Yeah,
like something
yeah.
AI.
Okay. Yeah, let's do the next one.
Yeah, let's have a next one. Actually, this one looks good. Actually, this Stanford Econ.
Oh, it's a new one. Okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I
Okay,
don't think I've
so
seen
it
that
could be.
one.
No, we need to add it to the list exactly. So let's come back over then to the automation. Where are we now? Cool. Now, before I submit, let me just then come back to this. So I should pause because I appreciate I'm like rocketing through this. Any like thoughts, observations, questions on that, David? Do you want me to dig into a little bit deeper?
I guess I would ask like, I mean, we'll get to this, but like, why did you pick make.com? Like, what does it offer that other, no-code tools don't offer?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I will address that specifically because I think a lot of people are thinking I've got Zapier, I've got all these different ideas. Why am
Yeah.
I doing Make? Hopefully, when I show you after I've done this demo, I can think of it. I love that question. So the way that Make works is we have this trigger. So a lightning bolt basically means the second I get some data, the whole automation will start. And again, how do we activate the automation? We come down, we click the on button. The way you would add things is you come here, you can add little pluses and all that sort of stuff. But for simplicity, I'll show how it works. So now the way that this works is Paperform here is going to wait until um, this completes. Either the page itself completes, or in our case, because we built it on this website, this form is complete. Now, the second that happens, here's what happens. This guy kicks into action. Then we run through something called Zero Code Kit. So Zero Code Kit, I mean, I'm sure like everyone, the IQ of your channel is like super high. So I'm sure everyone is aware of like all the coding stuff. And like you'll see Zero Code Kit basically like enables us to run code in a no code environment. So what it enables me to do here is I create this Python script that essentially just enables me to enter the URL. So you can see here, I specify and just change that from Paperform. So whatever URL fits out of Paperform, we'll run through the Zero Code Kit, and then that will go and grab for me the URL of the video. Once we've got the data, we can do like a million different things. In this case, I want to turn it into tweets. So for that, we draft a prompt, which is aptly called the Twittify bot. Well, these bots have very wild and wacky names. So just to give you a bit of an overview of what that sort of looks like, we ask it to act as an informed Twitter expert in the finance industry. Again, you can configure that. So for example, one of the really cool things about this is that you can configure this paper form or whatever your lead capture is in so many different ways. You could say, hey, like, what's your biggest pain point? What's your dream outcome? And then based on those data points, we can then wash that against different language model prompts to create unique inputs. I mean, we can scrape websites, we can cross-reference their website with our data plus what they want to get some really exciting and different outputs. So this is just think of this more as like a really cool concept. We give it really specifics about things that we like. We give it examples and then specify how we would like all the outputs to come out there. And then at the bottom, we give it examples of things that we don't want to see. So in this case, we just basically copy the whole Tweetify bot prompt, but I've already done it. So we'll be over here, for example. That's a thing that Claude's got. Little tip, by the way, and I'm sure we'll get into it later, the launch of Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
Yes, I definitely want to touch on that later.
Okay, that's awesome. So a little hack, actually, a gentleman in my community, David, pointed this out recently, and I just want to call it out. So what you'll notice if you are a Make It user, that if you click on model, you'll have your Opus, your Sonnet, your Haiku, and you won't see the
Yeah.
3.5 Sonnet on there. So what you can do is click on map and just enter in this code, and that should, in theory, activate the 3.5 Sonnet. So we click OK. And then finally, the final trigger I put here is just to create a draft on an email within Gmail. So it should pop somewhere here. And then what we do in that particular automation as well is we have like the email address, which again, we can grab that from Paperforms and go straight to the client. We can hard code in the subject line to say, hey, first name, what's this, what's this? We'll come just to 20 for a second. And then we've got the content, which is the text response. If it doesn't make sense, that's perfectly normal. I'm kind of whizzing through this just as a bit of a concept for you, but hopefully the flow kind of makes sense.
So it's basically
So look,
variables from the previous steps put into the email.
precisely, you get outputs. So for example, if I now click run once on this, watch. So he's not going to wait. I come back over now to our form. I submit the form. I come back over to make. We wait here. Paperform grabs it. As you can see, check this out, right? We've got change. We've got, let's have a look. Come down to the data. Check this out. This is all the data that we just got. Like there's the email. There's the full name, which is gobbledygook for our purposes. And then URL. So now once we get this data in a scenario, we can do whatever we want. Like the thing is, I always think about just get the data into the environment and then you can go crazy and do what and build a million different things that you like. Python code's done its job, which is awesome. Look at this. Every single thing that was said in that interview done automatically. Again, this could be used to summarize some of your favorite YouTubers if you just, you're busy, you don't have time. I mean, the possibilities are literally unlimited. Anthropic's
So
done its job with
for
this.
the zero code kit, can you show the script that extracts the YouTube transcript?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's right here.
Nice.
And I think this is the cool thing is like, I never studied code. I don't like know how to code per se, but like with like language models, we try to like find ways around. And it's funny how code still appears, but we're just using like language, even directly, indirectly to help us try and get the results. But obviously there's certain things like, I'm working on a project at the moment on like combining this audio and video together for like automating outbound, a personalized outbound reach. And so you'll have areas I always find where like you really like want to lean into the code. But one of the things I'm trying to do is make like this really accessible. And I think you'll find like with these modular things you can do. So look
Yeah,
at
for
this,
sure.
right? Anthropic's done its job. Now I should see this in HTML because I asked it to. No, this is all in text. I'm hoping then actually it translates into Gmail. So let's check it out, for instance. So if I go to drafts now, I should see a new email that has arrived in the draft folder with all of the tweets. Of course, get rid of this guy. Here we are. And unfortunately, it's not formatted it because I changed the prompt. But normally, with the prompt that you use, you'll see it basically comes out with all these bar-ready tweets that comes in there. So you have to really make sure that it's coming out in HTML. This one doesn't look that way because it didn't pop out in HTML, although it looks great there. So what we would do in this case is we just come back and we would just edit the prompt slightly just to make sure that we're getting the output in HTML. But
Yeah.
that's the end-to-end process in a kind of nutshell. Very configurable. It runs in the background. This would run once, so basically this would trigger the second that an automation arrives, and that's the kind of top and tail of it.
So it seems like the only two things people need is just like a bit of ambition and some basic prompt engineering.
Yeah, 100%. And you're really only my expression is if you can imagine it, we can automate it. And that's the exciting thing about it. Like the thing that I enjoy the most is getting these like crazy wild ideas that like nobody knows how to do, and then we just like figure out a way to make it reality. So it's so fun to do. And like the really cool thing is like like because you're the best at this, right? The tech just keeps on getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
And like yeah, it's just dude, it's like the funnest thing ever. It's so cool.
But I would say like most people still underestimate the value of automations. Like I don't understand why, but like people don't get excited about the concept of like automating something once and then reaping the benefits forever. Like why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I mean, like, there's a joke that says, "Look, I'll spend 19 hours to automate something that saves me 20 seconds a day." Like that. That's often the joke. But I think like it's like it's. I think there's like a perceived barrier to entry with automations. In other words, like I feel like the dangers that people get into a position where they think, "I don't understand this," or the perceived complexity is too high, so they never actually do it. But it's like the big thing I find myself like now is that like knowledge doesn't add, knowledge compounds, and like
Yeah.
the more incremental knowledge like gems that you get, almost like a network. Like it's like Kaplunk, the things that come in, like you get more intersection points. So for instance, once you learn how to use Zero Code Kit, for example, that isn't just one new automation you unlock. You unlock 1,000 because now you've learned like a new pathway to create something. Most people that don't get started, like I feel they have a an unrealistic view of how complicated it is. And I think you just have to throw yourself in that and be super comfortable with being a complete noob and a complete beginner to get started. But the reality is, I mean, David, I don't know what your take on this is, but the truth is most people do not bother. Most people
Yeah.
like this is why like I even gave away like I gave away so many business ideas. And I'm like, why am I giving this away? I said, because for every 100 of you that watch the video, only
Yeah.
three of you are actually going to try it. And of those three, one of you might do it
Two will give
okay,
up.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's it. That's like that is maximum. Like it's just the way that the numbers work.
Yeah, I mean that's I have the same experience. Some people are just like, you know, watchers. They only watch. They never implement. They just like watch, and like it gives them, it's procrastination, but it's like productive procrastination because it gives them that hit. Like, yeah, at least I'm watching AI. At least I'm watching something productive. But like if you never implement anything, if you don't use any automations, if you don't build any agents, it's like, what's the point, right? So absolutely, I couldn't agree more, and I have the same experience. And also, I would say like, it might take you 20 hours to build your first automation, hopefully not, but the next one will be faster, and the next one will be faster as you are more familiar with the software, you know all the features, where to click, all of that. So, that is not like a wasted time. As you said, you learned a skill. And also, the automations themselves compound on top of each other. So even if you save 20 seconds, that's 20 seconds every day. And then if you add another 2 minutes on top of that, now it's 2 minutes, 20 seconds every day. And it's like, it saves so much time. And like in a few years, you might get done twice as much as you would without the automations, right? And that's insane leverage.
It's ridiculous leverage. Yeah, it all compounds, just like knowledge in general, like little tidbits and books you read 4 or 5 years ago. You've got to like, I mean, it's interesting to get your point of view as well, because like you have like areas where you're trying to be an expert, but you also want to try and keep your top of knowledge funnel really broad. Like you want to keep yourself like exposed to different like perspectives. So like, and I find like when you like get optimized, I'm not trying to say that you optimize every second of every day where you're like every day you're like got a book or something, but I feel like you have to have that like 20% of like random exposure to different things, like whether
Yeah.
it's like a different podcast or something, just to keep like your ideas fresh. Because like I think if your top of information flow is not broad enough, you will eventually expire all potential ideas you can generate. So like I'm trying a lot to make sure that I have that like top of funnel information, because you get inspiration from the craziest places. I mean, I don't know how you found that, but like I think it's super important to bear that in mind.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I recently realized this as well. I tried reading different books. It's like when you read only like self-help, it's kind of the ideas start repeating, right? So I tried like reading more like biographies of like older people who lived, 100 years ago. And it's same with podcasts, just like now how I choose a podcast is how unique it is. And obviously it has to be something useful, not just like it's gossip or whatever. But let's say Alex Hermosi. I've seen like all of his podcasts, right? So if I listen to a new one, maybe he drops something new, but chances are like I already heard 90% of it, right? So maybe I choose a different person that's also successful that I haven't heard anything from yet. So that's kind of the similar idea, exposing yourself to stuff that could be relevant to. I mean, it's just following your curiosity at the end of the day.
I agree. I 100% agree. And like, what do we say? The best students are the ones that never fully believe their professors. You have to like maintain like a sense of like healthy skepticism, don't you? Because you're going through and stuff. I mean, like, dude, I'm all in on the All In podcast is a good example of that, because
Yeah, yeah,
those
I
guys
love that.
are obviously like super like, dude, they've done it. They've done it so many times, but they touch on and just like hear their perspectives on different topics. I think like isn't always like so AI focused, although that's in quite a lot. It's good to kind of watch and get that kind of data. I absolutely love it.
And it's also four different people, so they're getting different perspectives, right? If you spend enough time with everybody, which is kind of easy if you listen to all the podcasts, you can learn how they think and you can predict what kind of opinion they will have, right? And that's like, at that point, it's probably time to experiment with other podcasts.
I agree with that. Like, and I think it's good to get the challenge. Like, I'll give you a good for instance of one of the questions they put up recently, and it was like obviously talking about the AI market, but the question was like, where will most of the value actually be captured in
Yes.
AI? Is it at the chips layer? Is it at the language model and systems, or is it the products and the applications? And I was like, that's actually a phenomenal question. And then when you know the question, it's like obviously that's a really good thing to think about. But like they really think about it like on like a really like a systemed and layered approach. And I was like, that's a really good one to think through actually, especially like in the investments or like you want to have a bet in AI. You could do that financially, but I think actually intellectually is way more helpful, because I feel like AI is growing so much, this whole like AI no code thing, that you could actually be bad. But if you're in it, you'll struggle not to do well in it. I really think that. Like if you're just there and show up, you'd really struggle to fail. Unlike like print journalism is the complete opposite example.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with like Sonnet 3.5, like you don't even have to write all the code. Like the LLM will write the code for you. You can just paste the document. If it's some programming language that's like, let's say something is new, right? It isn't in the in the training data. Just paste in the documentation and like ask it to do it. Like at this point, we're literally like 6 to 12 months away from coding being all in English. So like people, you're right. Like people are just scared of nothing basically, and like there's always friction with starting anything new. But like if you're let intimidated, whether it's programming, whether it's some new user interface, it doesn't really matter. But like, if that's really the reason it stops you from learning a great new skill, like, really? Just come on.
Dude, well, it's funny because like I was saying like you know like your granddad is like they do like a job forever and it's like dude no that's over. Like I saw one of my best friends yesterday. We went like paddleboarding, we're in the sunshine, and we were talking about like stuff. And I actually also think that tied to that, this concept of retirement, I think is dead. Like you
Yes,
don't retire from anything anymore. That was when you had a job for like 40 years and you were done. The only way I feel that you can realistically prosper in this economy is your skill has to be the skill to acquire new skills. And I
absolutely.
think if you think you can get to a position where that's it, I know enough, you're done. Like I mean, you're so successful in YouTube, right? On multiple platforms, multiple occasions now. If you even stop, like, in fact, let me ask you, if your knowledge capped like 3 years ago, would you be as successful as you were in terms of scaling your YouTube, for instance?
No, I mean, I had to learn a lot of new skills when I switched to AI. It's a completely different format. My first time using a webcam, you know.
Yeah, and like now we have this like Samsonification where it's like less about the bells and the whistles and the whiz bangs and more about like authentic speech and stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
like you cannot be complete. You have to be comfortable with like changing and learning constantly, and which is why I think AI is so exciting. You have to like lean into that so much, I think.
Man, there's so many things I want to touch upon. So, first of all, many jobs will not exist. I mean, I think everybody kind of already understands that. But especially people who are like younger, they don't understand that the degree they're studying, might not even exist when they're finished. It's kind of crazy because I have friends who are like locked in the school system for like another 3 4 years until they finish. And it's like, okay, what if that job is not okay? Maybe even let's say it exists, right? But like, what if it exists for like 3 years? Like, is it really worth it to be 5 years in college to do something for 3 years that will not even exist? Like, it's just like thinking about it. Like, obviously, people are not aware about AI and AGI is coming, stuff like that. But that's what I would say is like the term uneducated. It's no longer do you have college degree or not, as it was like 50 years ago, right? Now it's just are you paying attention to what's happening? Like there are so many big trends happening in the world. AI is probably the biggest. Like if people are not taking it into consideration, no matter what job you have, it's like as you said, you have to be somehow involved.
I agree. I mean, like, I keep coming up with this analogy for like it's like the golden goose and the golden egg. Like you are the goose, okay, and the egg is the utility you create from your current job. Like the value's not actually in the egg or what you're currently doing. The value's in the goose. And like so, for example, I studied law, and do I use that? No. I mean, like, because contract law change the second you get out, contract laws change again. Sorry, it's all different now. But it's more about how you think about things, and like you're just building up. You're trying to create a bigger and stronger goose to create eggs. So like, even all the stuff we're doing today, like if it was to disappear tomorrow, that's okay because the value's not actually in the thing. The value's in hopefully the person who's creating the thing. So that's like I think the critical mindset shift. And I know it's like a little bit philosophical, but I actually think like as a concept I genuinely cannot believe you don't get that like concept. I think everything else is just kind of like it's
Yeah,
nowhere near as effective.
I think this is more like towards the basic like self improvement mindset because to me it never like I never even had that thought of like, oh, what if this software is not relevant in a few months? Like I know some people, like a lot of people watching this, they are like actively bothered by this. Like I see comments every day. It's like, why learn prompt engineering? It will not even exist. Why learn the basics of Python if in the future it will happen? It's like, okay, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna like watch it, look into the wall? Are you gonna watch TV? Are you building a business? What's happening? Like,
Right.
sure, you can learn the skill or you can not learn the skill and just waste the time. But like, you're never going to get worse by learning more. As you said, you just build on top of each other. At the very least, you improve your work ethic. But likely, you will learn new concepts. You will improve your brain plasticity. There's so many benefits that, even if the software doesn't exist, the next version, the other software, there will be some similarities, right? So you'll have an advantage over people who didn't use it. Like let's say something super revolutionary comes out next week and it's infinitely better than make.com, right? Maybe you will probably switch, right? You will switch it and like, sure, but you will have so many hours in make.com that you can already grasp like, okay, this is how automations work. This is how you link it. Here's where you embed code. Here's where you add the prompt. Like that's an insane advantage over people who are like, I'm going to wait because this will probably get replaced. Like, no, like there is no waiting. Like AI is coming. The AGI is right around the corner. Do not wait. Learn as much as possible.
I could not agree more with that. And like one of the things I've noticed, like most people that kill it don't have, and it like if you've got that mindset, by the way, that's completely okay. Like a lot of people start and like they graduate their thinking on that. So if you see yourself in that, I think that's a really positive like pause for reflection. But it's like I never see anybody who is absolutely killing it that will ever say, "What's the point of learning that? It's just going to change." I've never heard anybody who is
Yeah.
winning in every area that will say that to you. And just to tell back on your point earlier, by the way, on why I use Make versus Zapier, I want to say like they just as a quick aside, like Zapier has loads of apps. There's two key reasons why. One is um, I'm trying to make things very simple and accessible to get you running and winning. Make, I feel, as you're educating, is easier to do that. And it's easier to see visually how everything connects together. On top of that, it's way more accessible for a new start because it's like you can do so many things for free on it versus Appy does an upfront cost. So I say that to say, like, if you're debating both, both are cool, both are epic, both have use cases. Make, I find like visually UX, which by the way, we'll have to touch on that maybe another episode, but like design, I think is one of the biggest
Oh yeah.
uncaptured hacks that exist right now. Like I'm telling you right now, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I want to make sure I call that out because I know some people might be wondering on that.
I mean, ChatGPT was successful because of the UI. Like GPT-3 existed for 2 years already. They just packaged it well so people can use it easily, and that's why it blew up.
Isn't that funny, by the way? Doesn't that just show you like how powerful the product is? Like ChatGPT was behind an email block. They did no marketing. It spread like wildfire. One of my friends is doing like he's like an AI PhD. He's doing like research and like this really secret. It's very very secret. You can't tell me too much. But I remember actually a couple of years before GPT 3.5 came out, he said, "Hey, there's this really refined model that you would train on Shakespeare, and it would like it could only do Shakespeare, and he trained it on like 20 papers." And I was like, I actually remember seeing that and going like, oh, that's really weird that it can do that. But now I'm thinking like, dude, why was I not like, oh my gosh, like this is the best technology I've ever seen? So I've no idea why it didn't trigger that reaction, but like the it was when they added the chatbot that like it completely took off, even though like the tech might have been available and around a little while before that.
Dude, I have almost the same experience. Like, I think it was 2020 or something, some year like that. And, I was watching YouTube and I saw like this demo, right? And it was, I think, GPT-3. And it was probably in the playground and it was showing like how AI can generate text. And I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. But I wasn't like, okay, I need to do something about this. And I'm kind of like, man, what if I entered the AI field like 2.5 years earlier, right? So it's like, it's those situations like sometimes you just need a real shock to kind of show you the potential because yeah, I mean a lot of people even now they kind of see AI and just like think, oh, it's cool, but yeah, whatever, maybe it's another fad, another wave.
I tell you what my theory on that is. I think it's like you can. It only becomes real to you when you're experiencing it in a chat. Like you can intellectually go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." Like, "Oh, did you know AI can do this?" But when you're pressing the buttons and things are happening, there's just
Yes.
something about experiencing it. When you give a business idea a name, when you get your first paycheck from, even if it's like 10 quid or $10,
Yes.
as soon as you see the money and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I just got paid $10 for that," it becomes real to you in a way that, in a kind of emotional sense, beyond just you knowing, oh yeah, this can make money. And I feel like it's a bit of a hack actually to try and get those experiences to people.
And like with Midjourney, this is exactly the experience. Like everybody can look up, AI images online and like, oh, this is a nice image, this is a nice image. But until you make your very first image with Midjourney and like you type the prompt and you see what comes out, I remember my first day when I tried it finally, and I was like, obviously now it's almost a year ago, but like I was so blown away. I didn't do anything else that day, just create Midjourney images because
Great images.
that's how blown I was. I was just testing like cats, people, different images, and I knew about AI images. That's the thing. I knew that it was possible, but as you said, until you try it yourself and you type your own idea into a prompt and it comes out, a brand new image that didn't exist, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
You get the way. I mean, even one of my friends who's known about AI for years, he tried the Dali version, which obviously is like the baby version, right?
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe it. And I was like, dude, wait till you try Midjourney. Like, I can't believe it. Like, even he who's seen it so much just had to experience to start it. Um, I mean, that's why it's crazy. I mean, have you played around with the 3.5 Sonnet much, then, David? Like, since that's come out, because that's literally fresh off the presses at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I have played with it, but not as much as I would want. I'm actually making a video on it today, which is, going to be uploaded when I'm uploading this podcast, but it's going to be how to build agents with Sonnet 3.5. But yeah, I mean, look, everybody I've talked to, I mean, people in our community, people on Twitter, everybody says like it's way better than GPT-4o. It's faster, it's also cheaper, it's better at coding. It's like literally, I don't think there's any reason to use GPT 4.0. I mean, maybe to just get the assistance API from OpenAI because they have like a good framework there. But if you just wanna, as you like in your example, right? You immediately chose switch to 3.5 Sonnet because it's the best. Like, especially Claude is much better for creative writing than GPT-4. So yeah, I mean, I need to play around with it more, but like first impressions are super good.
I could not agree more with that. And like that is so weird, isn't it? Like it's hard to quantify. Like when you get like Claude to create text, it just feels better. Like I don't know what the linguistic terminology for it is, but like OpenAI, like their models, it just feels more AI led for some reason. I don't know what it is about the Claude model, but just like anecdotally, it just feels a lot better and more
Yeah,
authentic writing. So I
I've
always I always like bookmark my even if the OpenAI's doing the majority of heavy lifting, I'll have like Claude do its magic at the end, like before I publish it for sure.
Yeah, I think a part of that is because people can now kind of spot something written by ChatGPT, especially GPT 3.5, So like if you get an email and you can see like the formatting, it's like, come on, this is AI written. But Claude, obviously it's different training, different RLHF than from OpenAI. So it's like, it's not as mainstream, right? So it feels more unique, but even above that, I think they did something different. Yeah, it definitely feels like the model is much better at writing. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you think it could be like frequency bias, like because
yeah,
ChatGPT
probably. Yeah.
content's proliferated on the internet? Yeah, I mean, like the some people don't even remove like the asterisks that come from ChatGPT's response when they copy and paste
Man,
it, so it's like glaringly obvious and stuff. Did you see the thing about like in academic papers, the use of
yo,
a word? I
Delph,
forgot the name of the word. What was it
Delph.
called? Delve. Yeah, Delve went from like this to like this, like in like the space of like 3 months. And we're like, oh my goodness, like I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like nobody's really using it in speech, right? But if you see it in text, it's high likelihood they used ChatGPT for it.
Most likely. I mean, why would you not? Like, how could you not?
Yeah. Now, but I think what makes the Sonnet 3.5 really like breakthrough is that it confirmed that LLMs have not hit a wall. Because for the last few months, there have been like kind of rumblings like, is this it? Like, is the scaling over? What if with OpenAI cannot go past, GPT-4o? Maybe that's like the top. But Sonnet is just like broke straight through. And it's not even the top model, Opus is the top model. So Anthropic is obviously going to release that in a few months. But like, man, it just makes me realize like how good will GPT-5 will be? Because like, imagine the same kind of jump one more time.
So like I've got an interesting thought on this. So my thought is that like the I think the days of large scale jumps of like a 3 to 4 or like from zero to ChatGPT, like I think we're gonna have like way more frequent mini improvements, and the reason for that is because of just commerce. I feel like the commercial incentives of Anthropic and now OpenAI, who are considering going, get rid of their non-profit status, is it like okay, let's say David, like you and I are running OpenAI, right? We've got GPT 4o, we've got a model that like is like a GPT 4.5, like kind of it may be a little bit better than the Sonnet 3.5, right?
Yeah.
Do we release it, immediately capture loads of interest from people, way more signups, get cemented as a leader? Or do we say, no, 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 let's just keep that behind closed doors for a bit and wait until we've got five? I don't think it makes sense for them to sit on it realistically, to do these quantum leaps. It makes sense, I think, for them to segment and release it more regularly. And then on top of that, you have the view of like, which I think is a bit of a weaker point that Sam makes about like wanting to release it responsibly around
Yeah.
like, we don't want to make jumps. People don't mind jumps. Just give them the jumps and they'll run with it, I think.
I absolutely agree, but like OpenAI is not doing it. That's the thing. Like there was a tweet from Greg Brockman a year ago, maybe over a year ago, when yeah, it was after GPT-4 released. So that was like March, April, and he said exactly this, that they want to do more iterative releases than
Yes.
big jumps, but they are not doing that. I mean, you can say like GPT-4o was that release, but now like they definitely have something better, and I would drop it today. I mean, yesterday. Because like, if you think about it, Sonnet 3.5 will steal millions of dollars of API tokens, probably tens of millions from OpenAI.
Mhm.
And I'm already seeing this. There are people in my community who have software companies who are already switching all of the API keys, they're switching it to Claude Sonnet 3.5 because it's just that much better than GPT-4o.
Oh,
So if
right.
OpenAI doesn't drop something quickly, people will just start using Sonnet. And even for the cheap models, like ChatGPT 3.5, I don't think it should be ever used because you can just use Haiku, right? Claude free Haiku, which is cheaper, faster, and significantly more intelligent. So like right now, Anthropic is stronger than ever.
That's a really, really good point, actually. Yeah, because it's like this is the thing. The problem is it's too easy to switch models. There's
Yeah,
no inbuilt friction in leaving anymore. Like you're not because like typical SaaS models, like even if you get like a review product, you're
yeah.
baked in for a 12-month contract. All it is a switch of an API key, and then all of a sudden using something else. So that makes your D2C model much more difficult, which is why I think the real valuation money will come from how they're doing their B2B rather than their D2C, because that's just super volatile. You'll get your like, I mean, I say that I know that is B2B technically because of the API keys, but I don't know how they make a B2B client more sticky, to be honest with you, when you can just change because it changes so often so quickly. Why would you not just go to the cheaper provider?
I think in this case, B2C is like ChatGPT Plus, and B2B is probably the API. Like I think that's how they would categorize it. But I agree with you. Like, it's so easy to switch. Like, if somebody drops a new LLM, like, why not just use it? It's the better one. Like, for me,
Great.
switching from like Google Workspace to like Microsoft Teams, that would be a lot of hassle, right? Just like cancel everything, move all the emails over. I'm not gonna do that. But as you said, like switching an LLM, so easy.
Well, I would draw a corollary between Apple and OpenAI. I think the play needs to be an ecosystem of products, especially when Sora launches, that you have a code and pricing model that like branches across everything. So, for example, the more API keys that you use actually equates to a net better value across the kind of ecosystem of products because you have to get buy-in. That's the edge that OpenAI has over like an Anthropic, is that it's making those. I mean, Simon describes it right. We're doing great things across 100 different things, and you have to mitigate that sway of it's marginally better. It's just too easy to lose. I mean, it would be stressful to be the CEO of Anthropic, thinking, "Oh my gosh, like the second we're not along the top anymore, all our clients just move over here, and we end up hemorrhaging money." It's a crazy situation.
But OpenAI is ahead. Like they're at least 6 months ahead. But they're not dropping stuff. They're announcing a lot of stuff. But like Sora is not released. Even the new voices are not released. Like
Did you did you find, by the way, even with the app? Because when I saw the release of the app, it was like there was no latency. It would interrupt you, but like in the UK, at least, we still don't have that. Like it's still like
no,
you wait, and then you're like, okay, great, and then it comes back to you 2 business days later, and it's like, okay, it's just not the same as the demos, and people get really frustrated with that, I think.
yeah, I think it's people are getting frustrated with the era of the AI industry is so guilty of this product announcements and then not delivering. Like same with like Rabbit, right? So much hype around that, and it just turned out to be a piece of shit. Let's be honest. So like,
That was rough, bro. That was rough, yeah.
yeah, I
But
mean,
like even the Gemini demo that was like superimposed.
yeah, Gemini is like locked up in the Google Vertex cloud. Like, it's to
Dude,
get the
you
best
try.
features. Like, you have to do so much.
It is easier to break out Fort Knox than to get Gemini to work properly. The amount of
Yes.
hoops you've got to jump through, bro. Like, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything like it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand why Google doesn't put it into some simple UI. Like they have the amazing product. They can literally take a 2 hour movie and put it into it and like find all the moments the character looks down or whatever, right? Why isn't that so easy to use? Like it's like in the API platform, you have to sign up for Vertex, get some API tokens. It's like so difficult to get into. It's actually the hardest playground out of them all. Like compared to OpenAI and Anthropic, it's like impossible. I don't understand
Yeah,
what
and
Google's
like,
doing.
and it's not as if you're the only cat in town. Dude, there's like so many other providers. Like, you
Yeah.
can't make it so difficult to use. Like, it's ridiculous. But dude, it's the same with Google Ads. Like, man, Google Ads like is fine. The second anything goes wrong, you're in for a world of pain. Like, you try and speak to somebody, dude, it's not possible. Google, generally speaking, I've never seen any industry where they take their customers for granted as much as Google does. Both on search, like you Google anything now. I mean, like it's like I got to go through 6 ads and then a load of SEOified content that says, let's say I want to say, hey, where do I buy an iPhone? So you want to buy an iPhone? What is an iPhone? How many people have iPhones? And then it's like 6 paragraphs later, where do you get it? Which is why Perplexity has like completely changed the way that I use like the internet. Like I cannot sing its praises enough. It's like it's such a game changer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But actually, back to the All In podcast, I've heard them say that Perplexity is kind of over. I don't know if you saw that episode, but like, it was one of the recent episodes. They were talking like if Perplexity has any value or if it's just Google gonna demolish it. What do you think?
Well, I think so. If you look at like historic acquisitions, right? So a good example of that is Waze. Like just because Google can doesn't mean that it does. So often, like Google, given its size, is always like, do we buy or do we build? And sometimes it's easy just to scoop up all the talent and bring them in. But like AI search for Google, I mean, like, where is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've not seen another option that's got me like, okay, that makes perfect sense. So Google could roll it out, but the problem is they start to cannibalize their own income streams because it's like, okay, search and paid ad search is so profitable. How
Yeah.
do you? It's like you know, you built the premium Versace glasses. Do you know that someone's going to knock you off? Do you build the knockoff to self yourself as well? So they could self cannibalize their own revenue stream, which is incredibly profitable. And like Google Ads, for example, is getting like it used to be apparently an amazing channel, but like it's just no longer effective that cost effective anymore. I think.
Yeah, I guess that's like a question whether you replace yourself or wait somebody to replace you. But obviously Perplexity is growing massively, so they like have so much pressure. Google has to do something. They have to improve
Did you?
Gemini, otherwise,
Did
people.
you no, I agree. Did you hear this idea that like when Google launched, it went from a 0 to 1. It went from like it wasn't just a better thing. It was a complete game changer. I don't know if you repeat Thiel's book like 0 to 1. It's an awesome book. But like they 10x anything that was out there. But it's like they just cruised at that level.
Yeah,
And like Google's not I mean Google's got lots of like companies in AI and research and stuff that sit within it that are very exciting and obviously multi-billion-dollar industries, but like their core product on search, I don't feel has really like kept up with innovation. I feel like it's kind of just stagnating. And like I think if you'd have said 5 years ago, what happens to Google search, you'd probably say, dude, Google search is set. It demolished Ask Jeeves, it destroyed Yahoo. But now I feel like it isn't as secure as it used to be. I mean, I'm not an expert on search by any means, but just as a consumer, I just sort of think like it's just a crap experience. Let's just call it exactly what it is.
the question is why. Like they have the talent, they have the money, they have more data than anybody. If they wanted, they could probably within a month drop a product that would be significantly better than Perplexity. It's like, what?
Yes.
What's going on?
Like using Gemini. Yeah. I mean, but it's like, what's the new monetization strategy, right? Like, but also then it gets sticky in terms of whose data, right? I mean, this actually happened with like weather app providers, right? Where it was like they would build their websites and say, hey, it's going to be sunny in California today. And like the thing that Google did with the snippets, it said it just presented it in search. So it says, hey, it's going to be this
Yeah.
temperature. No need to click on it. So you got robbed as like a creator in that sense. And if the answers are driven on the website content, no one clicks on the website. It's like, do they then start to say, okay, great, I don't know, maybe the question is, how do I get a stain out of my top? Oh, here's exactly how to do it perfectly based on these top 10 articles. And then if it geotags your data, it can say buy it here. So it essentially becomes like an Amazon. Um,
I mean, I think there'll be massive lawsuits about this. Like, I think, big websites will just sue Google because, as you said, they will use their data, they'll use their content, but not send people to the website.
It's good, but like I think like business wise, right? You've got the user, you've got the search engine platform, which is the middleman, and then you've got the end person who either has the knowledge. What Google's saying is like I always had three hands and I could show you that, but I'm like chopping sushi here. Google's just saying, I don't think we need this guy anymore. They can
Yeah.
we've got the relationship with the consumer. They're on our platform, but we don't need you anymore. Okay. So that detachment of the relationship will be sticky. But like any relation, any business arrangement where there's three people and there's a guy in the middle, you do start to wonder, like, actually, what is going on? Either the guy in the middle builds what the pass on has, or the guy in the middle is not relevant anymore. So Google's the one with the asset, the attention. I just don't think they need the end creator anymore, which is why SEO strategies are good, but content is more important. I think like the attention economy and having that awareness is more important than ever.
Yeah, we'll see what Google does.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that goes. Yeah, and it's also tough to know the rate of change. You do get biased by like I think like if you when you ask people in the 40s like what will happen in year 2000, many of them said flying cars, and they said that because the car industry had like a lot of innovations in the last 3 years, so it biases you for future. So I said it said like it will be interesting to see like if we have that like innovation curve in search, but I'm excited to see, man, for sure.
I would want to go back to the automations for a bit and ask like, what are some of the mistakes that beginner people make when getting into the world of automations?
Hmm. So I would say one of them is going to be overwhelm or focus. So I think you've got to really narrow it down and try and just do one really simple thing and achieve that rather than trying to like boil the ocean. So one is going to be focus. Um, and basically they just don't throw themselves in. They find it too difficult and they stop. But most importantly, they just don't do the focus. That's probably the biggest area is just the lack of focus. Outside of that, it makes perfect sense. It's actually really straightforward. Once you know to connect it, it's like the ABCs. It's honestly, you're not learning Arabic, you're not running triathlon. You're connecting things together and having a good time and like learning a little bit every day. So honestly, I wish I could give you like a list of a million things, but you just have to get started. And we'll make it as easy as possible to get to do that. I think it's relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I think people just overthink, right? Like as you said, like choosing between Zapier and Make.com, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. What matters by far the most is like getting started, right? Once you get started, once you have experience, maybe you get some insight like, okay, for my business model, Make.com makes more sense, and then you switch. But like at the start, just get started, build something, automate something, and get into it because like that is where the most value is going to get. I see the same thing with agent frameworks. People are like, oh my god, the agent frameworks, like I learned crew AI, but now there's agency swarm. Like what do I do? I'm like, okay, listen, most value you're going to get from choosing one framework and mastering it deeply, right? Like if you are a master in any programming language right now, like let's say top 100 people in the world, you can get 500k salary in any of the programming languages. Doesn't matter if it's not Python, the most popular one. Like literally, if you're a top 100 in the world in any programming language, you can make probably $500,000 a year easily, and that's just by mastering something and doing it deeply. So I'm absolutely agree. Like people just need to sit down on the weekend, just dedicate 4 hours to this, like break through the friction, because you're not going to do it by 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. If it's something that's new to you and that has a lot of friction, even if the friction is perceived, right, you have to sit down and like, okay, I'm going to dedicate this time. I don't care how difficult it is. I'm not leaving. My phone is in the other room. I'm going to figure this out. And once you do that, you'll break through and see like, okay, it wasn't as difficult as it seemed.
I agree. It's like don't invest in S&P, invest in the S and me. Get it started and stuff. Like, yeah, I was saying the other day when I started on YouTube, like 2 Christmases ago or last Christmas, I was like, dude, I'm gonna learn Premiere Pro. And like, were we eating Pringles and playing games? 100%. But at the same time, I was like, I think learning the Premiere editing suite is valuable because thumbnails, because of editing, and obviously you outsource that at a certain point. But it's like you've got to have that appetite to learn and get started. And like the analogy I think's really like resonates with me is that like it's like boats on the dock. Like if you've not left the dock, you're just spinning on an axis. But like as long as you're moving in a direction, you can pivot 3 degrees here, 5 degrees there.
Yeah.
It's easier to get to your destination. But if you just stand at the dock spinning on your axis, and you can do it for any area of your life, like you're just never going to make the progress. You have to jump in and get started. And like it does need to build motivation because like once you get like most of the benefits you want is behind just the tough stuff you're not starting. So you just got to jump in and run with it, man. And it's fun. It's not like we're reading Japanese or something like as an English speak. It's like it's really fun, man. It's so fun to do.
Yeah. Like once you build something and it works, like that feeling is like cannot be understated.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So let's put, Make.com aside. Apart from Make, what are your top three favorite AI tools?
Okay. So one is going to be obviously Perplexity. I think it's awesome. The analogy I use is like I can say to Perplexity like I asked Google and Perplexity the same question. I said, how many barbers are there in Leeds? And Google was like crap answer. Perplexity was like, oh, there's like 76, and here they are. And I was like, okay, cool. So Perplexity's got to be number one. The other one I use most often, weirdly enough, is Adobe Audio Enhance. And I know it's
Interesting.
not like massive applications, but like for what I do with content, it's amazing. It gives you like podcast quality audio just from uploading stuff. So I absolutely love that. And then obviously it would just be one of the language models I use. I mean, I've got other little tools and stuff that I play with, but like principally I use like Claude every day, like for sure. Like I use Claude every day or ChatGPT in some shape or form. And I give you a bonus one. Fourth one would be Midjourney for sure. You would be wildly surprised how many applications you can get for that. Not even just creating content, but like for example, in my school community, I recently bought out like a level system, and we have like you start off as like a fax machine and you build up to like a T800 and whatever. But I wanted to create a consistent image style with
Yeah.
that was like pixelated and gamified, and like you can feed it in the alpha like, hey, here's an image, like build me an image of X using a blur reference image, and it spits it out, and I'm like, oh, this is like phenomenal. Like so those tools like. I think my workflow would like collapse in on itself if I lost some of those for sure, man. But how about you? Would you have a similar list or something slightly different?
Yeah, definitely similar list. I would probably add, an agent framework into it. Probably either Crew AI or Agency Swarm. But yeah, I mean, definitely the same list. Um, I want to ask, like, you said Claude, obviously, but how do you use it? Do you use the Claude.ai or do you use the console from Anthropic?
So that's a good question actually. So like when I'm building automations, let's say I'm using OpenAI for instance, I will build it in the playground to build an assistant, and I will test the code in the live environment, like to see that I'm like refining the outputs that I need with the prompt, before I deploy it in an automation as an agent. But if I'm using it as like a typical user, like trying to conversationally caress an output, I will use the actual direct thing. But if it's like for a system or an automation, I will always like run it through iterations. But it's like I was talking to my friend about this actually. Is it like most people undervalue the strength of prompt engineering, and that
Yeah.
like I find the prompts that I do, I get like 80% of the way there. Like I know for a fact I could get it like 5x, but then I don't know if you find this, but you have this like diminishing returns principle of like it's effective, it could be better. If I had 8 hours to spend with the prompt, of course it would be so much better, but you have to get like the balance between creating a really effective prompt and also like not only doing prompting 100%. So it'd be great to like hire a prompt engineer just to run, I think, and do that full time, to be fair.
I would say it matter like it depends on what's the application, right? So like if I absolutely agree, like you should get the prompt, so that it runs. Like don't overthink it. Just write something that it works, prove the concept, and then you can refine it. But if it's something that's like you're gonna use every day, or like an automation for like a high ticket client or whatever, then I
Yeah.
definitely would encourage spending like 10, 20 hours on the system prompt. Because from my experience, even when like building GPTs inside of ChatGPT, like the prompt gets significantly better with each hour you put in. Like obviously it's like the 80-20, right? You're gonna get the most benefits in the first like 3 or 4 hours, but you like the more you use it, the more you see like, okay, I don't like how the GPT responds with this, and then you like clarify, be more concise in this part, or do not browse the web, whatever, right? So like you spot things that are like small details, but if it's something like important, those small details add up, I think.
I could not agree more. It's like all on the use case. Like if you are doing client work at high ticket, it has to be you have to do those small things because like small inconsistencies they need to be robust. Like it's like the robustness increases significantly. What I hear a lot from AI teams and startups that working for businesses is that the businesses don't always understand the time requirement to make those systems very robust because they've got the pressure to deliver and launch. But it's like they just don't understand the value of doing that. But like, if you're doing it as a proof of concept, I'm just showing you how this would work. That's cool. But like if there are lives on the line, I don't make it too dramatic, but if there are things on the line, man, like you would like if you went to Starbucks, for example, and the app was like hallucinating, you'd be like, dude, what the hell? What this is a joke. Like there's like your margin for error is zero. So you have to like really bear that in mind. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and like that also goes in terms of like quality, like let's say high ticket client, but also quantity. If you have like 1,000 people, like let's say we push a GPT to all our YouTube followers, right? Well, that's gonna get like so many different people so asking so many different prompts. You need to do more testing because if somebody just asks something slightly different and then the GPT doesn't follow the instructions and like they get some bad result, it looks bad on you, right? So I would say like if it's something that's gonna be launched to the wide public, then you also need to like spend a lot of time on the prompt engineering.
I agree. And like we said, most people don't bother. Most prompts you see are just very surface level. They're not designed intelligently. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
would
yeah.
say like I would say people again. It's the same with everything. But people just think it's so much harder, right? It's like, oh my god, to become a prompt engineer, it just sounds intimidating, especially if you're new to AI. It's like it sounds like a programmer, or even more like intimidating. But it's so simple. Like if you spend 10 hours learning about prompt engineering and writing with prompts, you will learn most of the fundamentals, right? And then you'll see like, okay, I should use examples. I should give it a role. I should tell it what not to do. I should tell it to be concise, whatever. obviously depends on the application, but like you will know these things in your arsenal so that when you can write the prompt, you can like quickly, type it out. And it's like, if you see that it's not following instructions, you're just like, okay, let me repeat it in a different way. Let me say, follow these steps in order. Do not skip any step. Make sure you've completed all steps, whatever. So like the more you put into your prompt engineering arsenal, the easier it becomes. But you can get there in like 10, 15 hours easily. So it's not like something you need a college degree for.
Dude, 100%. I could not agree more. I think like you can make like so much money as a prompt engineer. Like genuinely, like there's a need for it. And actually, businesses don't even understand sometimes how you have the businesses that get it and the businesses that don't. But like I feel if you hand that craft down, you can make a good income as a prompt engineer. There's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever. That's a very undercapitalized area, I think, at the moment.
Dude, even colleges are capitalizing on this. I don't know if you know, but MIT launched a course on prompt engineering and they're charging 2.7K. So almost $3,000 for that course. I had a guy in my community take it and he said, it was good, but David, your course inside of the classroom was better. So I was like, okay, that's a pretty solid testimonial.
Dude, I agree.
So if you want access to my prompt engineering workshop, which is better than the $3,000 course from MIT, make sure to join the community. You will also get to join a network of over 500 people at the cutting edge of AI. And if you join before the end of June, I will build you a custom GPT for anything you want. Do not miss out on this offer and join today.
I actually think like what we do in our school communities, like it's so cheap. Like first of all, it's cheap anyway, but like I think I compare it to like what you would spend at university. So in the States, it's crazy. In the UK, it's like 9K a year. And
But
like you've
still,
got to think about like
9K a year is a lot.
£9,000 a year. I mean, like, you can do nonsense like because we all know like degrees like used to guarantee you a great job, isn't the case anymore. And like it's just there's like academic thing where like they keep you in the system and like they approach. So in the UK, you have a 3-year degree and then a 1-year master's. And oftentimes they'll say to you something like, David, you've shown real promise. We think you'd be great to do a master's in electrical engineering. We think you've got that. We think you can make a mark in it. What do you think? Why are they saying that? Dude, they're trying to sell you a 10K product, bro. They're
Yeah.
doing a 10K upsell. But because it's like you all you've known is academics, they keep on pushing you. Like I'd say, dude, join like a school community like yours, learn the skills. It's cheaper than uni. You'll start paying the debt off in the future. And it's just something you can start making money with straight away. Like
Yeah.
I actually think like, the whole education sector is going to be super disrupted. And because at the moment you have the big institutional players, it's going to get fragmented. And I think people who are teaching valuable skills will start to mop up some of the market there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, how much are you right now charging?
So in my community, $50.
Okay, so I charge 87, so both like low ticket. Compared to
Yeah.
school, compared to real college, it's obviously nothing. But like it's kind of crazy because people when they see something that's like less than $100 a month, they have like suspicions, right? But people don't have the suspicions for college, and that's because like it's kind of brainwashed into society. They have like an exclusive deal with the government. Obviously, you cannot declare bankruptcy on your college debt. So like it's kind of you go to college. It's like there is this societal. It is brainwashing. Like this is no two ways about it. That where society like justifies the cost, right? Well, it is the cost. Like you're going into debt, especially in the US. You're just going hundreds of thousands into debt. It's like why not look at your bank account? That's the funny thing. Everybody wastes at least 50 to $100 a month easily, right? So why not people just like look at their bank account, look at the last month, the last 2 months, see like where the money is going. Okay, I probably shouldn't buy this. Let's stop buying this, right? You save the $100 and then you invest into something that's going to be your future, such as an AI community. It's like such a no-brainer deal. It's not like people don't have $50 to invest. They do, but they spend it on useless shit. And they're like, when there's something productive that would invest into their future, they're like, I don't really know, man.
I completely agree with that. And like, especially uni, especially like college, high school, you are kind of like pushed to believe it's required. It's like, okay, so what unis are we going to next? What's it? And it's like everything's pushing you towards go and do it. I think like you've got like there's a good expression like you've got learning years and earning years. And like you don't have to become like a millionaire in every year. I feel like but that's kind of what you think. But like invest in your knowledge and your skill set, and like that will push you forward to come and grow. And like you don't have to go. Quite frankly, you don't have to go unless you're a doctor. I'd encourage it then, obviously.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, like I just don't think it's necessary anymore. I actually don't. Apart from the social aspect of it,
Oh yeah, the
I'm not sure.
social, that's the main benefit.
It's the
I would
main
agree.
benefit. I would agree, and you could argue that it's just fine those grounds. And if that's like why you want to do it, that's cool. But if you're going because you think you need it to get a job, I mean, like I remember even my nephew, like at uni was like, I'm gonna do this. I said, what opportunity do you think this is unlocking? And I couldn't give me an answer. And I said that do it if you want to, but genuinely, like you've been misinformed, I think, a little bit. So like, dude, it's a big problem. But like that's why I think schools, the platforms are so sick because you
Yeah.
get to like decentralize that, build communities, and like it's like having classmates that actually help each other to like solve problems. Like it's so much better than uni. Like it is like 10x the quality. I really think so.
Yeah, 10x the quality for 50x less or whatever. Crazy. I
Yeah.
would say one last thing I want to touch upon is the retirement concept, right? Because this is what actually Evelyn Weiss told me is that that investment is into your retirement, not paying the taxes, like thinking the government will take care of you. No, you have to take care of yourself. Like if you learn AI now, in 10 years, all of those skills will pay off. So when you are retired and you've built those automations that are still running, by the way, like those are the investments into your retirement that you should make, so that you are prepared and not reliant on the government. I don't know why it doesn't bother people. The average person is perfectly happy with this, working 45 years and then hoping the government takes care of them. It bothers me. I don't want to be reliant on the government a single bit. So this is why I'm like so encouraging people to learn AI, develop skills, start an old side hustle, start a business. It's like, do not, like, even if you don't want to work full time, that's fine. Like the concept of retirement, by the way, was because of manual labor, right? You don't have the same strength at 60 as at 20. But like with knowledge work, there is no reason to stop if you love what you're doing. There's actually plenty of studies where people who don't retire live like 10, 15 years longer. There's some island in Japan where people just, the concept of retirement doesn't exist and people average like 95 years or something crazy. So people who retire actually die sooner. Fun fact, the number one dangerous year when in all of our lives is the year we are born. The number two most dangerous year to die is the year we retire. It's literally
Wow.
statistically proven. The year you retire is the most likely you die, except for the first year because infant random deaths. But like retirement is actually a scam. And sure, you don't want to work 40 hours a week, but even working 10 hours a week, you can easily make $3,000, $4,000, and that's more than most people's pensions.
I could not agree with that anymore. Like, okay, you want to think of examples? Clint Eastwood, 97 years old. Did the guy still making movies? Like, you see it all the time. They retire, they lose purpose, and they fade away. I mean, like, how many times have you heard, even anecdotally, everybody watches podcasts right now, of so and so retired, they'd saved their nest eggs, and they were dead within 18 months. Like, it's like ridiculously common. And like you said, bro, you made such a good point. Like, the retirement existed because you're working at British Steel or whatever company, you physically couldn't continue.
Yeah.
And like, I think retirement is a symptom of a philosophy that says, I live to work. In other words, I only work to get these coins that I can spend in exchange for experiences. And I think if you do the stuff that you want to do, so for example, my first startup, when did I build it? I built it in the weekends and evenings. So I did my day job during the day, and then in the evenings I would learn things about the technology and the SEO. And I built that business up. I sold half of it. I was able to quit my job and do that full time, and had an amazing time doing it. But what was the sacrifice? The sacrifice was I was in a coffee shop at the weekend. I loved it. Bear in mind, I wasn't like I hate this. It was so fun. I loved it. But like most people, maybe you're playing Fortnite all day on Saturday, and I do play Fortnite. I love Fortnite. Fortnite's amazing, but it's like you gotta like the day job keeps you your current where you are, and then your evenings and weekends build your future, and like it's like a superpower. I swear to you, like doing that, and then if you enjoy the work that you're doing, there is no timer. So like it's like I think it's a concept you've got to like unstitch because it's drilled into you like from a very young
Yeah.
age, like when you're gonna retire, retirement. And David, you also made an amazing point I have to touch on like the government. I'm like, dude, if you're waiting for the government to swoop in and save the day, bro, you're gonna be waiting a long time, man. Like the other thing with I know it's like the pensions in your country, but like the way it should work is you put money into a pension when you're like 18 or 20, that goes into a ring fenced account, and that compounds over 40, 50 years, and then you start to draw down the dividends from that account. What actually happens is you start paying your pension at 18, you're paying off the current elderly population. So you're two generations behind in debt. So the second that you have an inverse population curve, the whole economy collapses, which is what happened with Japan at the moment.
It's
It's
gonna happen
insane. It's
in all of
crazy.
West. All of West is
Yeah,
gonna
the
happen.
population. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, all the
So
birth
I
rates
mean,
are below replacement rate. So this is what I
dude,
mean. These are the big trends that are happening, and nobody's paying attention. It's like AI, oh whatever. Oh, the birth rates are below 2.1. Ah, whatever. It's like inflation is like 12, 14%. Ah, it doesn't matter. It's like no, like you're getting stolen from. Like imagine this, right? Imagine somebody came to the average worker, right, and say like, okay, we're cutting your salary by 10% next month. There'll be the biggest riots in history instantly. But people, if the government prints 20% of more currency, nobody cares. But their buying power goes down even more. It's so crazy, man.
they don't. That's how they get it in. They sneak it in. Like we have a tax in the UK called stamp tax, which is like when you sell or buy a house, you get taxed a percentage on the purchase, right? When you're buying a house. When that was created, that was a small tax. It was like £2 to fund the war against France. That was the only reason it was introduced. I don't think we're at war with France anymore, to the best of my knowledge. And now it can be like 10K, 20K, 30K. It's so pernicious what they do with this. And it's like pacifying people. And like, if you have the thought, well, if it's such a big issue, why we're not talking about it? It's a dangerous way to think about it. You've really got to like, I think, take your future into your own hands and just build skills that pay the bills, I think. Well, whatever those skills are for you, whatever industry. Obviously, you and I are passionate about AI, but I
Yeah.
think like regardless of what you do, you have to invest in your like knowledge bank for sure. Because even lawyers aren't necessarily safe, or accountants, for example. Like nothing is safe from the wave.
Yeah, I would say the main takeaway people should have from this podcast is like, don't be conventional, right? Because if you do what everybody else does, you're going to the same results as everybody else does. Like whether it is, the concept of retirement, whether it is not working on the weekends, like that's another benefit you said. Like, that is why not? Like if you work a normal job and that keeps the bills paid, you have to do extra to get ahead, right? So, college, retirement, working on the weekends. There are so many things that are drilled into us from the moment we're born that is just like societally reinforced, and most of them are just not necessary. Like you can do whatever you want, and if you want to get ahead, you have to do more than the average person, and a lot of those beliefs will hold you back. So I think people watching this reconsider what you're doing, because everybody can find the time to learn AI, to learn make.com, to build some automations. It's just like same as going to the gym. Everybody can find time for that.
Dude, beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better myself, man. Absolutely. And dude, thank you for having me on the podcast, dude. It's been cool hanging out, chilling out, and having a chat, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you for being here, Jack.